this spot which I'm occupying would normally be taken up with an interval of music, instead of which you're getting some poetry. And that puts me on the spot, because what can I possibly read that would give you so much pleasure as, at this point in the evening, an interval of fine music? I've also just been introduced as Professor White, which doesn't sound very encouraging, does it? It's not a title I've ever actually held. However, I've decided to resolve this problem by reading to you 4 very musical, very poignant sonnets, followed by a couple of my own poems. The situation in the sonnets is that a young man has lost, through shipwreck, through drowning, the woman he loves. My dearest enemy, in whose hand my happiness was ever adventure, you lack an earthly sepulchre, and I a tombstone to attend. Eternally the pirate waves will enjoy your pilgrim loveliness, but while my own life endures, in this heart you will remain alive. And if my rough verse can prolong by its excellence the history of pure true love on your behalf, you will be famous in my song, for as long as the world knows memory, my writing will be your epitaph. Ah, my Dinamene, so you abandoned him who never stopped yearning for you. Ah, nymph, I cannot discern you, given life was what so soon you scorned. How have you now forever parted from one so unprepared to lose you? Could these waves have refused you, had you not seen what troubled your heart? Not to tell how hard death quit me when you consented its black veil so early on should cover your eyes? O sea, O heaven, O my dark fate, what future pain will I feel and so value that have so little to live for in sadness? When prolonged reflection on my grief dulls my eyes in sleep, I discern in vivid dreams that dear person who was for so long the dream of my life. There in the empty landscape, straining my pupils at the shimmering vistas, I pursue her, and then she appears, remoter than ever and more driven. Don't avoid me, gentle shade, I cry out. She, her eyes brimming with tender shame, like one who speaks what cannot be, turns to flee me. Dina, I shout, and before I have added many, I fathom even that brief illusions denied me. The heavens, the earth, the tranquil breeze, the waves dispersing on the beach, the fish slumbering in the reach, the night peaceful and at ease. Fisherman Ioniu, as he wandered where the light winds ruffled the spume, wept as he pronounced the beloved name that could no more than be conjured. Waves, he said, before I die of love, give me back my nymph, whom so untimely you made liege woman of death. No one answered. The sea beat far off. The casuarinas stirred gently. The wind returned his voice in the same breath. The young poet of those poems was Louis de Camões, who came to God at the age of 28. Soon after, seems to have met the woman who is lamented in these sonnets. I lost her when they were sailing back from Macau in 1558 and wrote these poems. We know nothing about her other than she was an Asian woman. He didn't come here as a viceroy or governor or admiral or a power figure of any kind. He came here sentenced to 3 years military service for a crime he had committed in Lisbon. And he never prospered in Goa. He was jailed at least 3 times. and when he left Goa, it is almost certain that he was fleeing persecution by the Inquisition. You won't find this in the standard biographies of Camões. The standard biographies simply say that in 1567-68 he decided to return to Lisbon to publish his Lusíads. But in fact, although there's no written evidence of this, because the evidence of the records of the Inquisition have disappeared, they certainly don't feature in Lisbon, and I understand they were destroyed in Goa when the Inquisition was abolished in 1812. Nevertheless, there's considerable circumstantial evidence linking Camões's flight with the fate of his friend and patron Garcia de Horta, who was certainly targeted by the Inquisition. I put together the details, the circumstantial evidence, about 6 weeks ago, and I sent the information to Teotônio de Souza, the Goan historian, whom I'm sure many of you know, now lives in retirement in Lisbon and is recovering from heart surgery. I put this notion to him, and he replied with just 2 words, nihil obstat, which is wonderfully witty. Some of you will know these are the words with which the Inquisition cleared books for publication. And consequently, I wrote a couple of poems on this theme. They're dedicated to Teotônio de Souza with the comment, nihil obstat. In Velha Goa, the statue of Camões in full Parnassian rig, his brow festooned by a poet's evergreen laurels, his right hand clutching the Lusíads like a weapon, and put in place the very eve India took over, was blown up in 1983 by activists who were not professional literary critics, but whose instincts were spot on. The Portuguese too had made Camões unwelcome, this convict soldier, this perennial poet jailbird, who, clutching that same manuscript, had fled the Inquisition's flames. His epic celebrates a globe abundant in peoples and fruits, newly navigated. And then the second part. When Camões fled the Goan Inquisition, he made it as far as Mozambique, where his funds ran out. He'd never prospered in the Catholic colony, disembarking as a convict soldier after a Lisbon brawl 15 years back, and jailed in Goa thrice more. For the moment, he felt safe, beyond reach of the Dominicans pursuing his patron Garcia de Horta. Horta too was safe, having died even as Camões was fleeing. His crime as a cultured new Christian sprung from Sephardic Jews was his Colloquio, a treatise on Indian medicinal plants, with a debut ode by Camões praising this aged, lettered man instructed by the muses of the river Ganges. Heresy. Thwarted by death, the inquisitors burned Caterina, Horta's beloved sister, then exhumed his corpse, torching that for good measure. Camões all this while, stranded penniless on Mozambique's Entrebat Isle, till Diogo de Puta underwrote his passage to Lisbon. Camões hugged his Lusíads manuscript, sexy and gowned the juicier bits, hoping against faith for the imprimatur of a holy office preoccupied with other matters, to wit, the plague, turning Lisbon a necropolis, and an adolescent king distinctly mad. His vision was of the planet, rounded for the first time, in all the wealth of its people and nations, by Portuguese navigators he saluted as matchless, in verse of a subtle modernity. Centuries on, his Lusíads was gelded by another theocracy's dogma, driving captains to revolt against a dying regime. And one more, on a completely different note. I live these days outside Lisbon, in retirement, and one of the tremendous pleasures of a retirement is that you've got time to read books. I haven't had that pleasure for years. There's always been too much time too many things occupying you to sit down to a book of 500 or 600 pages. Now I can do that and know that I will finish it within 5 or 6 days, and the pleasure of that is immense. One of the books I read last year, for the first time in my life, was Herodotus. I won't claim I read him in Greek. I read him in Tim Holland's recent marvellous translation. But the pleasures of this book were immense. And this is a poem about those pleasures. It's called Father of Lies, the title that has long been given to him. And there's an epigraph, which is a quotation from the text. Quote, "The heights of Parnassus can readily accommodate a large crowd of people." End quote. Glorious at 75 on a summer's evening on my veranda to be reading Herodotus. Why didn't I do this 60 years back? To have formed my mind after his fashion, endlessly inquiring, closed to no novelty, embracing digression as a narrative norm, as fresh facts crowded his pen, meticulously distinguishing what he saw with his own eyes from what was credibly witnessed, what entertainingly rumoured, and what evident nonsense, but too hilarious to leave out. He was wrong, of course, to claim Ethiopians eject black sperm. Aristotle put him right on this. But I applaud his Persians, who debate laws twice, once when sober and again drunk, adopting whichever's doubly approved. Better that than a House of Lords. His belief that events are predetermined by oracles speaking in ambiguous verse seems as sound a historical method as any, whether your sages are Gibbon or Althusser. His approach to poetry is matter of fact. Witness those crowds haunting Parnassus. And his ruling myth, that free men of Athens will always defeat the slaves of autocracy, is one I buy into, though his tribes at war seem simultaneously just down the road and all too menacingly up to date. Thank you for your attention.